Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Awaken Alive podcast. I'm your host, Emily Ruth, and for our second journey, we are going to be talking about purpose with my friend and purpose activation coach, Jen Beverage.
Hello, hello.
Are you excited?
Oh my God, I'm so excited. You know I'm excited. I can talk about this all day long.
So, a lot of people are going to have questions what purpose activation coach is because they probably never heard of it. I've never heard of it. But before we get into that, what is your definition of purpose? Because a lot of people, including me, had thought purpose is something you do, it's something like a goal you pertain to. And on your website, you had purpose is within yourself or within you, I should say. So, what is your definition of purpose?
Oh my God, I love this question, Emily. So thank you. Thank you for having me, and thank
Mhm.
you for asking that awesome question. I 100% agree with you. And for most of my life, I thought that purpose was something outside of me as well, something that you do, like a job title almost, the thing that you become. And I think that there's a reason for that. And it is this that's what we're taught, right? We're taught that purpose is the same as career. And so, oh, my purpose is to be a doctor, or my purpose is to be a teacher, or something like that. And from a very young age, we're asked this question, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I think that's hilarious and detrimental, right? How the heck is a child supposed to know what they want to be when they grow up, when they've had so little experience out in the world and really so little experience of themselves? And that leads me right into your second point. So, to me, purpose is within you because you are your purpose. We are born into this world to experience ourselves in a varied amount of experiences and roles and relationships. And so, for my 2 cents, we're never not living our purpose, except when we're not being true to ourselves, because it really is about learning who we are and then going out and being that. And so while sometimes your purpose can be the thing that you do that you get paid for, aka career, right? Often we are living our purpose in our everyday life and we're not aware of it. So we're trying to chase something because we know we're here to do something big. We know we're here to have an impact. And those are the women that I work with. They're like, probably from a young age, like, oh, I know I'm here to do something big. I have no idea what it is. I know I'm here to make an impact on the world. But because of what we've been taught about purpose, we don't see, or we fail to see, that we're actually living our purpose when we're talking to the cashier at the grocery store and listening to what's coming up for them and sharing our insights, or even just listening. That alone is such a beautiful gift to other humans because we don't do it very well. And so I believe that we're living our purpose all day, every day. It's whether or not we're willing to allow ourselves to be the fullest expression of that purpose so that we can show up for the cashier, or we can show up for our partner or our kiddos, or even our dog, like we were talking about before we got on, right? Show up for our dog in our purpose, being the human that we came here to be and having the experience that we came here to have.
That's
That
very
was
well said.
long-winded. Did that answer your question, Emily?
No, but yeah, it was very long, but you went in detail about what it is. So my question for you is, how did you come about this?
Mm, I love that question too. Um, and I want to say the reason it was so long-winded is because I'm super passionate about this, because I think that we beat ourselves up, or actually, I know from my own experience, we beat ourselves up about finding the right purpose, right?
Mhm.
It becomes this thing that we have to get right. And that was my journey. Like I said, from a young age, I knew I was here to do something big. I remember sharing that. It was like the summer after high school, and I was sharing it with two of my best friends. And I said, I know I'm here to do something big. I don't know what it is. And one of my friends said to me, she's like, everybody thinks that. And I remember my thought was, no, you don't understand. There's something big that I'm here to do. And so my life has been about chasing that thing outside of me that would make me feel like I'm living my purpose. And if I'm being honest, for a long time before I did the healing and the inner work, what I was really chasing was feeling worthy. feeling valued, right? Like I'm
Yes.
worthy in the world. I
Yes.
can have what I want. And that's a game where there's just no winners because
Right.
you can never do enough, you can never make enough money, you can never have enough love. Like when you're not enough, nothing outside of you is enough. And so for a big part of my life, I played that game. And especially after my spiritual awakening, where it was like, whoa, I saw the world completely different. That's when I really got on my path to purpose, so to speak. And I really was chasing things outside of myself. And you know a lot of my story, Emily. I tried on a lot of different purposes. At first, I was a health coach
Mhm.
and I was helping women lose weight because, again, it was really about feeling that good enough and that enoughness. And I actually wrote two books under the hat of health coach. At one point, I was the busy mom's health coach, and then the other one is What the Fork, Put That Diet Down.
Mhm.
And both of them, the underlying theme was like, you are enough. Love yourself where you are, meet yourself where you are. And it really was about coming into self. And so as I look back now, I can see these threads running through it. After the health coach piece, I got out and did that for a while. And then it was like, well, I'm a mindset coach. I'm a confidence coach. I'm a business coach. Like I tried on all these different hats and none of them really worked because I was in that trying energy. So it wasn't like I'm owning this. This is who I am 100%. Here I am. I'm showing up for it. And so I never got the results. I never got mirrored back to me what it was that I was desiring. And again, I didn't know it at the time, but the theme underneath it was I'm not enough. So I have to prove it. And I'm going to prove it by saying I'm this and doing this and achieving this. Achievement became a really big thing for me. I graduated summa cum laude, which is the highest distinction, because it was like I had to prove through my grades that I was worthy enough. And then it became this chasing thing. So I've got the degree in psychology, I did the health coaching, did the mindset coaching, all those pieces. And then actually in 2020, and it wasn't because of COVID, it was actually before COVID, but I joined this mastermind and I started to see what I was really doing. I started to see what was going on with purpose. And I was very much in my masculine energy, right? Doesn't matter how we identify, we all have more feminine and masculine energy. We have both. But I was very much in my masculine. And I know now that was a protective measure for myself. But in that year, I started to lean back into my feminine and surrender. And that's when I found and really got into human design. But for me, that was like, oh, this is fun. This is interesting. I started learning a little bit about astrology, and then I dove deep, into human design and fell madly in love with it. And that led me to the gene keys eventually. So I was doing human design readings, essentially for purpose, but
Mhm.
there's lots of ways that you can use human design. And then I came to the Gene Keys, which I had met the Gene Keys a little bit earlier, but it wasn't for me. And I feel like human design and Gene Keys are both the same in the way that if it's time for you to investigate them, you will know it. You will feel it, right? And
Mhm.
if it's not, you will not. You'll be like, oh, whatever. Everybody's talking about this thing. That's nice. But it was when I started incorporating the Gene Keys into my human design readings that I fell madly in love with the Gene Keys. I took a Gene Keys course to go through my whole Gene Keys sequence, my hologenetic profile. And from the two of those together, and then the thing that I had been doing all along, regardless of what I called myself or the hat I was wearing, I was always passionate about helping women step into their purpose, but I was never owning it because it was the
Mhm.
thing that I wanted so bad. And I think that a lot of your listeners will probably resonate with this. It's the thing that I wanted so much that I was afraid of having because then I might lose it.
Yep.
Right?
Definitely agree.
Right? And so it was like me breaking my own heart so nobody else could break it for me.
Right. I
And we
definitely
do that.
Yeah, I definitely agree because it took a lot of guts not to sign my contract for not being a teacher no more. I was nervous and
Yeah.
scared out of my mind 'cause I was like, what am I gonna do? Well, obviously, I'm working through that as we speak.
Yeah,
It
and I
is
really
taken
want to
time.
acknowledge you for your bravery in that, Emily, because what you're speaking to is the thing that a lot of us do. We're doing the thing that made sense, the purpose outside of us that we were taught was the thing to do, right? And it
Mhm.
was right for us for a time. But sometimes it's no longer right. And it takes so much bravery and courage to say, this isn't aligned anymore. This thing over here that scares the hell out of me is what's so aligned. And actually, I'm going
Right.
to go do that thing.
Right. Because I sometimes still like second guess myself. Like lately, I have been. I was like, because I've been having weird dreams. I don't know if you've been having weird dreams lately, but like me just becoming a teacher again, or me having to do something with the podcast. It was like totally different things, but it just, I guess, and I kept getting like, there's options no matter what you do. You're still going to be back to eventually will lead you where you need to go, like all you exploring everything.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just find it funny how everything works out. But
If we trust, surrender, and allow, it does work out. It's when we're in resistance, pushing against the thing that's actually right for us, where we struggle the most.
mhm. Why do you think like the purpose became like the purpose it is now today? Like, why do you think that's happened?
I think there are a lot of layers to it. But what I would say that, so it made sense to our logical
Mm,
minds,
okay.
which we were taught to value over our heart and our embodied intuition, right? So taught to taught to revere the masculine traits over the feminine traits, right? And so it made logical sense for us to pick a job outside of ourselves and spend our lives doing that job. There was one point in time where it seemed to make sense to us based on what was going on in our society and what we
Mm,
had created as a collective to do that. I don't think it makes sense anymore because of the connectivity that we have with the internet. We have a way, it's so beautiful. We have a unique way to share our gifts, whatever they are. And if we choose to get paid for them, or we can simply share them as our hobby or our side gig, right? It doesn't have to be the one thing. And I like what you were saying about your dreams, because it sounds to me like your dreams are inviting you to see it's not an either or, it can be a both and. So it's not either you're a teacher or you're a psychic medium. It can be you can do both of those things and you get to create that in whatever way. And as you were saying it too, it was making me think that also there's more than one way to be a teacher,
yeah.
right? So maybe there's the teacher in the school system, or there's you doing exactly what you're doing and teaching people through social
Mm,
media. Or if you do events in person, teaching people through that, right?
yep.
And so I love that you were saying that because there are so many options. And often what happens is we get these blinders on about what purpose looks like or what our life is supposed to look
Hmm.
like or the experiences that we're here to have, when actually the sky's the limit and there's so much that we can do. And we have the most amazing, like, um God given or universe given, whatever it is that you believe, these gifts that we're born into the world with, which is one of the biggest reasons why I fell in love with human design and the gene keys, because they will show you. And that's how I ended up coming to my purpose readings that I do, the purpose activation readings, because they show you. This is why I love them. And I'm probably jumping ahead questions
It's
that you're going
okay.
to ask, but they show you who you are, and not to negate who you think you are. But what I find when I do these readings is that what it's doing is it's giving you permission to be who you always knew you were and you've been making yourself wrong for, or you've been lessening and hiding, right? Because you're like, oh, well, this can't be it, because you're looking at other people and you're seeing what they're doing, especially other people. So, like for you, if you're looking at other mediums and seeing how they're showing up and who they're being, you might not be allowing your gifts to like fully flourish in the world because you're trying to be someone else. And none of us are here to be someone else. Our soul came to have a unique expression and a unique experience. Your soul came to be Emily Ruth. My soul came to be Jen Beverage, right? It didn't come to be some watered down version of us. And that's what happens when we get on social media and we start comparing our gifts with
Right.
other people's gifts.
I would say, like, I think social media plays a big part in that. Like doubting yourself. You're like, well, I'm not like her, so I'm not going to be good at it. Like I feel like a lot
Yeah.
of people think that, especially with podcasts now. Like a lot of people don't think like they're like, oh, everybody does a podcast. So what? Like you can offer somebody your gift, your purpose, your you in a
Mm.
wholly different way than say Joe Rogan's podcast. So
Don't even get me started. Um, right, but the reason why Joe Rogan is so successful is because he's Joe Rogan. He's not showing
yep.
up trying to be someone else, and people either love him or hate him. And that's the thing.
Mhm.
That's how you know you're being yourself. Because if you're being yourself, everybody's not going to love you because you're
Mhm.
taking a stand that can be seen as less than palatable to other human beings. I don't want to say
Right.
divisive because that's another issue in of itself. We won't go there. But what I want to say that social media can be good for, Emily, because we see it as like this demon, right? It's evil. But when you're scrolling on social media and you start to feel jealous or
Mhm.
triggered by what someone else has or is doing that you don't have or that you're not doing, that's a good inclination or a good clue about something that you desire that you're not allowing yourself either to experience or express.
That's a good way to put it. Sometimes I catch myself being jealous of some people, but then I'm like,
Yeah, me too.
I can do this.
Yeah,
Just a
and the
different
way you're
way.
going to do it is, yeah, it's going to be better, more true to you, and more successful. I would say that one of the reasons why a lot of us struggle in the online world, like if you're in the coaching space or anything where you are teaching in the online world, the reason we struggle is because we're not being ourselves. Because once we are fully ourselves, we become magnetic to the humans that we are here to serve.
I will say, when I put it out there and I am being myself, more things come to me when I'm resisting. And the way I know I'm resisting is when I'm doubting or just
Mm.
like just doing because I need to or doing because someone said I needed
Mhm.
to. So I definitely agree with that. I will say that's been a learning curve, but take it for granted. Like, you don't have to have your whole life figured out. You have time to figure yourself out because obviously you have to, like, I guess, de-school your mind of everything
Mm.
that's been given to you as a kid to now. Because I know one of my parents did not but do all this. And one of my parents was kind of open-minded, I should say, but she didn't know about everything else in the world. So I've literally had to like untrain my mind for things like
Yeah.
this, like being a medium, like being a channeler. So it's just
Yeah,
always
I love
fun.
that. No, I love that point, Emily. And I'm a parent, and so, to give parents their due desserts or what it is. So like we can do the best that we're doing, and we're still going to screw
Mhm.
up our kid in some way because of they're going to have their perception and their experience of what we're doing. And I do believe that we are all doing the best we can because if we knew
Mhm.
better, we would do better. And like it makes sense, right? Because mediums aren't it's not like nobody's asking school children who wants to be a medium. You know what I mean? It's not that pervasive in our
Definitely
society. And so
not.
it makes sense. And how beautiful that you had a parent that was open to it. I get it. Nobody was a first of all, nobody was a coach when I was growing up. I'm almost 45 years old. And so if they were a coach, that meant a different thing, right? They were like
Mhm.
working at the school and they were helping kids, learn how to play
Sports.
basketball, right? Like sports. Yeah, exactly. And then life coach started to become a thing. I don't know exactly when, but I heard about it in the early 2000s. So purpose coach, right, wasn't a thing. You might be like a career counselor. I think that people would have thought that that's the same thing, but
Two
I don't
different.
believe that your career is your purpose. It can be a way that you express your purpose, but it is not the thing that is your purpose because you are your purpose.
Woohoo.
Oh, and you said something about time too that made me think because, like I said, I'm almost 45, and I don't know if it's the same with younger generations. That makes me sound really old. Um, I don't mean for it to make me sound old, but I know that women in their 40s and 50s of our generations, and even to some extent in their 30s, probably late 30s, there's almost this belief of there being a too lateness. Like if you don't
Mhm.
start in your 20s and 30s, that you're too late. And I would say, here's the deal. If you've got a big purpose, it's going to take you some time to get to the place where you can empower others in the way that you show up and who you're being. It takes time, right? And to your point about I forget how you put it, but like the deconditioning of our mind,
Mhm.
everything that we've learned, we have to unlearn most of that stuff because it's not actually helpful to us in thriving. The things that we learn are great, maybe if that, in surviving. They're not great in thriving and actually feeling fulfilled and loving your life and living your purpose. And so we do need to unlearn those things in our mind. And sometimes that takes time. I have noticed, I believe, that younger generations are coming in better equipped to do this. They're coming in, they're questioning the status quo, and we can see that in the things that have been coming up in the world. They're like, actually, no, that's the thing that we've taken for granted is not actually true.
Mhm.
And this is how we want to experience it. So there's definitely things to be learned there. But I just wanted to throw that out there that there can be a lot of time pressure, like we're too late, and oh well, maybe you're about to retire from your job and you've lived your life and you're like, oh, it's too late to do my purpose. And I just want to bring it back to that. So instead of the macrocosm, the microcosm, you are your purpose, and so it's never too late to be you.
Right. I mean, there's even people that say like the humans could uh, how do I say that? They can live up to like 120. So if you think about it, your 40s, 50s, 60s, it's only like half of your lifetime. So you got plenty of time if you take care of yourself and whatnot.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, right? Because the quality of life and your health can become very consuming as you get older if you're not taking care of yourself. And you can be taking care of yourself and still there can be some genetic factors, unaccounted for. And so I think that's too where the pressure comes in because it feels like the best of our years are gone. And I'm with you. I don't think that's true too. And I look at like Louise Hay. I mean, I think she founded Hay House in her 70s or something like that. I mean, I find that so inspiring. I know
Mhm.
that she was on the older end. I don't have the exact numbers, so please forgive me on that one. But she was older when she started stepping into that facet. I want to say that
Mhm.
facet of her purpose, because it's not like her whole life she wasn't living her purpose. That's not true. She was,
Just in a
just
different
not
way.
in that, right. Yeah, not in that capacity.
Because I feel like your 20s and younger like your kid years is learning just how to be freaking human, and then your 20s is like trying to figure out your humanness, like who you are, and then your 30s are like maybe I got this. 40s and 50s, I feel like you kind of figure out who you are, but now you're like, oh, I'm more than just being a mom, or I'm more than just being a secretary or a doctor or something, you know?
Hmm. I agree.
Kind of interesting. Mm. Okay, so with the burning question, they probably are still wanting to know what purpose activation coach is. So if you mind explaining what that is so people
Mm.
can understand what you do.
I would love to. Yeah. When I was trying to think about what to call myself, it needs to be clear, right? And it needs to
Mhm.
be something that people can understand. And it is legit what it sounds like. So it is activating your purpose. Um, Again, I don't think we're ever not living our purpose. But the
Mhm.
activation piece is that when someone comes to work with me, they're saying, I am intentionally stepping into the human that I came here to be. I am intentionally ready to share the gifts that I came to share with the world. I am intentionally showing up in my life as the fullest expression of myself. And so, what I do with women is in the session, and because you got to experience it, is that we connect with the version of you that you desire to be. But also, it's beautiful in so many, and there's so many moving pieces. But the heart of it with the human design and the gene keys pieces is showing you who your soul chose to come into this planet as, the gifts that your soul chose to share, and also the potential pitfalls, which we all have them because we're human. And like you said, the potential pitfalls that you are here to experience. There seems to be this belief that life is only good when things are going your way, and that relationships are meant to be happy all the time, and life is meant to be happy all the time, and your career is meant to be happy all the
Mhm.
time. And I would say that so much suffering comes from that belief. I
Mhm.
actually believe that we are here to have both the good and the bad, quote unquote, right? It's how we perceive them, but the good and the bad experiences. We are here to learn lessons. We're not here to, like, get through life unscathed and, slide into heaven's door, however you look at it, right? Like with no scars. We are here to get messy. We are here to make mistakes. We are here to hurt and be hurt. We are here to love and to hate and to do all of the things. Right. And I kind of went off on a tangent there on that one. But your soul, it actually chooses and this is my belief, right? And if you don't believe it, totally cool. But this is what works for me, is that your soul chooses to have the characteristics that you have, both good and bad. Your soul chooses to have the relationships that you have, both good and bad. Your soul chooses to have the experiences that it has, both good and bad. Now, to be fair, there is free will in that. And so there are things that your soul did not choose that will happen to you in your life, right?
Mhm.
And then what that becomes is another opportunity for healing and learning, right? And so that can be where it becomes difficult and we become stuck in the pain. We become stuck in the hurt. We become stuck in the heartache. And that's not shown through your purpose reading, but the pieces that your soul chose, the characteristics and the potential pitfalls are shown through that. And that's one of the pieces that I love with that, because again, people are either negating the positive aspect of themselves, where they're like, oh, yeah, everybody can do that. Everyone's gifted in that, right? It's like they downplay it. And then overemphasizing the negative things, like, what the heck is wrong with me? I'm a piece of doo doo, right? It's like, I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. I'm so stupid. Why do I keep doing this thing? And through the reading, they actually get to see, like, hey, here's your gifts. Now you can express them because they're unique to you. And hey, here's the things that aren't great and that you might not like about yourself, but you didn't do anything to create that. Your soul chose to experience that. There's nothing wrong with you. It's just what is, right? So it's like, how can we work with what is? I decided to put together the most comprehensive piece of a reading, and it was a little bit hard for me to decide whether it was going to be in a reading because
Mhm.
it's so much, and you got to experience it, so But it starts out with connecting with your future self and feeling into what it feels like to be living the life that you deeply desire when you are activated in your purpose, and then allowing the feeling to become your guiding light rather than your thoughts about what life should look like. And so then when the feeling is the guiding light, it's like I said, it doesn't matter what you're doing in your everyday. If you're feeling that feeling, whether you're talking to a cashier or you're, picking weeds in your garden, then you are living your purpose. It doesn't become this thing you have to do like outside of you to prove something. There's nothing to prove. Can't prove who you are, right? You are worthy because you exist on this planet. And then we go through the piece where we talk about human design and the gene keys that give you the piece of the characteristics, but also how best to use your energy, how to make the right for you decisions,
Mhm.
how to show up in your life to become magnetic to the opportunities that are right for you. That's more the human design. And then the gene keys piece is like, here is the high and low expression of this gift that you have, so that you can start to see in your life when you're showing up more aligned with your purpose and less aligned with your purpose. And then, of course, at the end of it, I go through and I coach on whatever the biggest roadblock is that you feel is standing in your way to living your purpose.
Mhm.
It is like the wildest, most beautiful ride that I can take someone on, because it's so much and so supportive in one piece, but it is an activation. You can't not leave that session. I suppose you can, right? We all get to choose. But I think it'd
Or
be pretty hard to leave that session without a strong sense of who you are and what you came to share with the world. You'd have to be like "La, la, la, la," the whole time that
like
I'm
not
sharing
listening.
stuff.
But you also have it to where like they're the client is like involved, like it just don't sit there and listen, like you literally ask them questions. You might even, I don't know if you still know now, but you gave me, like when I did your session, like you gave me questions to answer to journal before I even came, so it got me thinking already. But then when you
Mhm.
took me through all the journals and you were asking me stuff and we were going in, and it's not something you go into like a deep sleep or anything like that. It's not hypnosis or something like that. It's just like a slight little meditation to calm you down, and then she just takes you through a visual. So if you're not very good at visualing, she described everything pretty well. And I remember you asking me, like, with the future meditation, what was the feeling you felt? And I remember saying radiant joy. And you're like, when you're
Mm.
feeling this, you know you're aligned with your purpose. And I was like, huh, funny. Because, all the work we've been doing before that, I always kept getting joy or hummingbird because that's my symbol for
Mhm.
joy all the
Mhm.
time. And I would always get that when we did a meditation once together. So she literally tells you what it is, like what you're feeling is how you know you're alive, your purpose. So if you don't catch on to that, anything else, at least the first thing you can get is that.
Yeah. I love that too, Emily. Thank you for reminding me. I
Mhm,
do. There's pre-session work
mhm,
so that we can, because we don't look at ourselves objectively, so that we can see everything that we've overcome, everything that we've accomplished, everything that we've achieved. Because often, especially the women that I work with, they're like high achieving, they might identify as type A. And so they're always like they achieve something and they're on to the next thing. They
mhm.
don't even take the time to celebrate and acknowledge what it is that they have done or what it is that
Yeah.
they've achieved. Yeah, and I love what you were saying about the feeling because it's so simple. And while I love the spiritual or what might be termed as woo-woo stuff, which I absolutely love all of that stuff. But if there's no practical application, I got no use for it. And so I always try to make things very practical, palatable, so that you can take steps as a human, because we are not one or the other. We are both of those things, right? We are soul and we are human. And so that you can in your human life start again, it goes back to that activation, start taking steps towards living your purpose. And to your point too, so they also get a Google Doc, as you know,
Mhm.
that has everything I
Like
share
this.
in the reading. I love that you printed it. I
Like,
so love that. And in the Google Doc, each piece has journal questions
mhm,
to dive deeper into each of those pieces. Because, yeah, I'm going to tell you what human design and what the gene keys say, but you know yourself, you know your life. And so, like, this is about, it's really taking it one step farther where you get to support yourself even after the session. And then I also do a 30-minute follow up to ask any questions that have come up even after the session or to coach anybody through anything
yep.
that they need, because I want it to be super supportive. I want it to be like, if you are serious about stepping into your purpose, you're going to
Yep.
do it. I'm going to walk with you hand in hand, and then I'm going to let go. I'm not far. I'm still there. I love when people reach out to me and say, "Hey, this and this came up
Mhm.
afterwards." I absolutely love it. But that they can go and take action on their own if they choose to.
Right. And I will say, like, a lot of people, when they think they get a reading from somebody, it's just they're listening to them. And it's really like, no, you actually have to do the work. So
Mhm.
I will say, anytime I do a reading with Jen with anything, I end up crying. Not because she made me sad, it's just because what I'm working through. And I will have say it has brought an emotions out of me that I didn't even know I had clogged up in me, I should say. And I will say it also has led me to doing a lot of things that I probably wouldn't have done. So, mm,
Mm. I love
podcast
it.
being one of them.
I love it. I celebrate you for that. I celebrate your bravery, Emily. It's very
Mhm,
admirable, and that you're showing up for yourself. You're showing up for the experience that you want to have. You're showing up for your purpose. It's been really amazing for me because, as you know, right, I did the purpose readings with humans that I knew first as practice,
mhm.
and to see these humans each like stepping in and owning who they came here to be, and it's not me, right? But I'd like to think that the activation was a spark that kind of was like, oh, wow, more is possible. I can be the experience that I want to have.
Right. And I will say, if anybody has ever gotten the human design readings from like anybody, I mean, that goes in length. But even if you had that, doesn't mean you shouldn't probably do this reading too, because it goes into the gene keys, which I never even heard of. Didn't even know what
Mm.
it was until I was like, huh, how does this play into, like, I already knew about my human design, but like I think it was more palatable when you added the gene keys. Like it
Mm.
gave me a better understanding of
Mm.
how I am in this world to better understand. And then with the questions and then the coaching, which I think with my reading, you weren't even planning on doing coaching, were you, when you did my reading?
No, I was.
Oh, you were?
I was, yeah.
That was freaking funny.
It was
I was just like,
amazing.
ooh,
Yeah, it
what'd
was
you do?
amazing. I don't think you knew that I was doing coaching.
No,
I don't think
I
you
didn't.
expected that piece.
I wasn't expecting anything, honestly. I was just
Yeah.
like, I'm gonna do whatever this is. I just knew
I
like human design was in it. I was like, I don't know anything else, so let's go with the flow.
Yeah, I love it. I love that you were like, "Hey, I'm game for whatever." I
Yeah.
absolutely love that. And I like what you were saying too about the palatable piece because like I said, I've been studying human design for over 3 years, and I think Gene Keys, about a year I've been studying them. And there's a lot of anybody who's heard of human design or the Gene Keys, it can be not palatable because
Mhm.
there's a lot of technical speak, and it can be very confusing. And so what I decided to do with the purpose reading, so in the human design readings that I used to do, I would take I would still use the technical terms for human design because, if people want to speak with other people about it, it makes sense. I took that out of the purpose reading. I don't say, like, example, I don't say your human design type is manifesting generator. I don't say that your authority is sacral. What I would say is that I would talk about that you're multi passionate and that it's right for you to have your hands in many things at once and that you can actually do them well. As opposed to other people might struggle with that. I would say that you know what's right for you in the moment. You don't need to take time to make the big decisions because if you're lit up by something in that moment, it's right for you. And so it makes it easier for people to understand because what I've found with human design is that people get hung up on the labels. They get hung up
Mhm.
on, I'm a manifesting generator. I don't know. I can't tell you how many people I'm like, we're
Yes.
talking about human design for some reason, and they're like, oh, yeah, I know I'm a projector, but I don't know what that means.
Yes. Or it becomes like their entire entity. Oh, I'm only
Yes,
this
they become too
because
focused.
I'm a generator. And I'm like, but you're also you. But okay.
Right. And also I've seen people use human design to demean themselves. Like, oh, I don't have any energy, I'm a projector. But when I actually look at their chart, they have like most of their energy centers defined. And I'm like, actually, you have quite a lot of energy in this, right? And so it's like, and I've definitely done it as well. We can use our human design almost as a way to like dismiss having to do any work.
Yeah, I will say in my head that like, I don't feel like doing anything today. Yep, it's just because I'm on my off time. That's why.
Yeah, so I'm guessing you have a defined root, and because I don't remember your chart off the top of my head, but said the
Yeah.
bottom square defined root. Yeah, and so your work cycles and stress as well comes in a cycle. And so
Mhm.
there are times when you're like, let's go, I'm going to do all the things, and there are other times when you have no energy for that, and learning to honor it. But yeah, it can be really easy to use it as an excuse to not do anything.
Mhm.
Like, oh, I must be in my rest cycle, but it's been like 3 weeks. Still
Yeah,
not doing anything.
I will say. I mean, there's a time and place for everything. If I don't feel the rush to do anything, I'm like, there's probably a reason why.
Mhm.
So I don't
I
know.
love
I think
that.
it's just all about learning about yourself,
It's
which is
living
what,
the experiment of human design, living the experiment for sure.
yeah, I will say that. It's just been a wild journey, I would say. And for those that are still wondering, like, what my purpose is, you can always, book a session with Jen,
I would
Beverage.
love that. I would love
Yeah.
that.
Um, would you like to tell them how to contact you, if anything?
Yeah, absolutely. So my website is jenbeverage.com. And you can email me, jen@jenbeverage.com. Also, you can find me on Instagram at jenbeverage.com. Try to make it super simple. And through Instagram, you can go to my link tree. And if you want to book a session, you can do it there or you can do it on my website. And you have to know, because I use human design and the gene keys, you have to know your exact date, time, and place of birth. So this is not like you ask your mom, when was I born? You need to look at your birth certificate. Most birth certificates have all of that information on it because so with some things it's not a big deal, but sometimes minutes of your birth can change things drastically. And so it's not going to be as accurate or as helpful. I find. And so that is the most important piece. So don't do a mom, when was I born? Oh, around 1 in the afternoon. No, because big important aspects might change between 1 and 1:30, and you were actually born at 1:32. And that can be very different. So that would be the biggest thing that people need to know. Um, yeah, and I just have had the most amazing experiences doing these readings. It's, I've done human design readings for years, and this just takes it to a whole other level in the ability for the person on the other end. And let me know if this rings true for you, Emily, to access the truth of who they are in this world.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that because yeah, it surprised me in some ways because I'm like, oh yeah, I've always noticed that, but never really clicked in my head with
Hmm.
everything. Oh, let me see if let me find it. Because you have
Ooh,
it to where you like you put it in, how do you say, sections? Like one of the
mhm,
sections, I don't know if you updated it since you've done mine, but like how your energy works, how to make
mhm,
the right for you decision every time, which I really like.
mhm,
Mm, your unique comfort contribution to the world doing your life's work. What drives you to do your life's work was a very big one for me
mhm,
because I would always think in my mind and not with my heart. So mine was leading from your heart, not from your mind, which I think,
I love that.
yeah, which I've been doing for the most part. I mean, there's some times where I'm in my head, and then if I know like I'm in my head, I just need to stop thinking about it. Just with me in particularly, I go with my first answer usually, unless I'm doubting,
I,
and then I'm just like, let me not speak for a little bit.
yeah, yeah, that's interesting, Emily, because I see you as somebody who trusts her intuition, but I get it because our mind is very protective of us, and it will jump in an instant.
I literally catch myself asking, like, is this my ego talking? Is this my mind? Like, or is this some guide? Like, sometimes I have thoughts pop into my head. I'm like, is this me? Or is this my guide? Or is this some weird entity that's around me that I have no idea?
Yeah.
Like, but I mean, I'm still learning about my abilities, even though some people think I've been doing this for a long time. I haven't. So,
Well, you've been being you for a long time. And
yeah,
yeah, as you learn who you are even more, you will learn your abilities and they will probably shift and change.
yeah. Well, I'm glad you think I'm very intuitive.
I do think you're very intuitive,
I
but you're
just,
also human.
yeah, that humans, I swear.
But that's where the resistance comes in, right? So it's like
Yeah,
resisting
you
being
know,
human is not helpful because we're human.
you want to know, like when I was younger, I would randomly say, "Gosh, I don't like humans," and I'm like, "Why would I say that?" I'm like, "I'm human." Like, what do you mean? But now I kind of
Yeah.
understand, like learning about all the woo stuff. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
that makes sense. I'm just
Yeah.
curious.
I was going to say, I thought you probably have a pretty good handle now on why you used to think that. I would think that too. I was like, why, why do these people act this way? Like, I don't understand. Like, why are they doing
Why
that? Like,
do
that doesn't make sense to
why
me.
don't they know? Just be kind. Why? Why are they being this way? No, really? Like I used to think that as a kid. And I don't know, but I was always the not weird one. I mean, I was kind of weird, but like I would just be myself. Like I would just stick to myself, if that makes sense. But I would also be friends with like everybody. But not truly friends, if you get what I'm saying. Like I have
Hmm.
hop groups and stuff, but nobody
Hmm.
like would know the real me, I guess you would say. In a
Hmm.
sense.
Wasn't that part of, I'm thinking back, wasn't that part of your reading though? Like you're here to like be alone and there's a reason for that, that you feel like
Yeah,
set apart
yeah.
from other
Because I
humans.
always felt like I was, I don't know, like I remember this, I remember in our session, I was like, yeah, I always feel like I'm like ahead of my peers. Like I already learned all this crap they're learning now. I'm like, I've already learned that. And I'm
Yeah.
like, not in a sense of school stuff, but just life lessons that you
Hmm.
learn, not to be a dick or anything, you know? Um,
Yeah, like it seems like an obvious lesson. Don't be a dick. Um,
Yeah.
My thought on this is, and something that made sense to me from a very young age, and again, your viewers, listeners can take it or leave it if it resonates with them or not. But my thought on this is that we're all at different places when it comes to the human school that we're all in right now.
Yeah.
And I think that some people have done human maybe more times than others, or have more experience. And it just made sense to me because I would look at people in my life, as from a young age I would look at people in my life and be like, they don't get that, but I get that, and I'm a child and they're an adult. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. Like, I don't understand that. And I don't think, I was not a genius. I don't think I was any particularly gifted child. I think I was a pretty
Mhm.
normal child, and it never made sense. And so then when I learned about like past lives or living more than once, that really resonated with me because it put an explanation, and maybe it's not true, but it made sense to me, and I'm just going to go with it. That put an explanation to why some humans seem to human better than other humans. Like the short way of putting it.
Yeah. I'm just like, man, it would save me if I knew the things I knew now, it would just save me so much heartache. But I feel like if you don't go through the quote unquote pain that you need to go through, I call
Yeah.
them growing pains. Um, like my so-called awakening, if you want to call it that, is when my stepdad died. Um, I went through some very emotional times. I mean,
Mhm.
and when we did a reading with you, I didn't realize that was still affecting me. I feel fine about it now. I mean, there'd be times where I would think about him and I'd cry. And obviously, sometimes I would see him because what abilities I have, right?
Yeah.
And I thought I was done with all that, but I was very upset. Like, why did he have to go when I had this other situation going on with the other thing, which I don't want to talk about here. But
Yeah.
yeah. So it made me realize that if I didn't go through all that, I wouldn't be working on the projects that I'm working on now. So,
I love that. And it lands different. I think I've said this to you, but it's a
mhm,
difference between, so like anybody can gain knowledge, and especially now where we have access to the internet, anybody can gain knowledge and call themselves a whatever and say that
mhm,
they teach whatever. But energetically, it feels different when somebody has embodied wisdom from the experiences that they've had in their lifetime, and that's what
mhm,
they're sharing, as opposed to like mental wisdom where they just have learned something
yes.
and they're trying to teach other people how to do it. So I think that's a really great point that you bring up, Emily. You have this embodied wisdom now because of the growing pains that you went through. And there will be people who, even if they don't know what you went through, energetically, they will be drawn or magnetized to you because you've got that embodied wisdom that they're actually searching for, that they might not even know. So, like you were saying about our session, right? I've been doing this healing work for a long time. I didn't even bring up that I trained to be a sex, love, and relationship coach as well. That was like the most intense training of my life. That 1 year was harder than all the years that I went to college. It was so intense because the first part of it, we're doing our own work. And so much of it is like this inner child healing, and a lot of like triggering and trauma, and like things can come up with that.
Mhm,
Right. And so, but because of that, right? So now I can hold space for people who are experiencing something similar or going through that inner child, that piece of being triggered, or things that I
mhm,
experienced in my life. And so people might have experienced the same thing. They don't know what I experienced, but energetically they're drawn to me for that embodied wisdom. Same
mhm,
with you. I just wanted to bring that up because it's in this internet world right now, especially where anybody can call themselves a coach. You can, if you feel into it, who is
right.
sharing embodied wisdom and who's speaking out of their rear, in my opinion.
I was about to say something very similar. I mean, we kind of know a few people, that talk out of their behind, but I mean, and all in all, needless to say, just because you think you're done working on something, doesn't mean you are. So just
No.
be very open-minded and try not to resist those feelings and just let them out. And I say let it go, but they're like probably like, how do you let it go? It's working on it. And Jen is perfect at working on it with you. I will say
Oh, thank
every
you.
time crying for multiple reasons. but in a good
Oh,
way. It's kind of
yeah.
it makes you feel very vulnerable, I will say that. So if you're not used to crying in front of somebody that's not really like in your vicinity or not like a family member or you used
Mm.
to crying alone, she does give you the option to like mute yourself or turn off the video so to get you at least comfortable. I did it one time or twice, but then I think our follow-up you made me say things out loud, I think.
I made you.
Um
I was like, you will say them out loud
yeah,
in
you made me
front of
say
me.
things out loud, but you gave me the option to mute, but you're like, don't be quiet about it, like say it out loud.
Yeah.
And so that was interesting, I will say. It made a difference, I think. I guess there's like a difference in like talking out loud and then talking in your head, but I
100%.
guess.
100%. Like it kind of goes back to where I was telling you I was having that tickle in my throat yesterday, and I'm
Mhm.
like, what am I not saying? Excuse me. So energetically, it's very clearing to say it out loud. And yeah, to your point, what we're doing is vulnerable because we're talking about like who you are in the world. And it is always important to me to create as safe a space as I can, right? It needs to be safe, but also an invitation for growth, right? And so if I was mostly interested in safe, I would have been like, oh, just say it in your head. No, I'm more interested in you getting the release, the catharsis, the growth that you need. And so that's why it became, I love that you brought it up. It became an option of, oh, you're going to say it out loud. I don't need to hear it though. That's up to you, right? And so that's creating the safe space, but also because sometimes, I've been coaching for over 8 years, and there was a time where I didn't feel like I could hold space in that way. It was really, like I said, my sex, love, and relationship training, coaching training that really helped me to hold space in that way, where I wouldn't go there. I wouldn't even invite the client to do what it is I invited you to do because I couldn't hold space for it. And that's another point, right? It's like when you're in front of somebody who's coaching you, you can feel the capacity that they have to hold space for you in a way that is both safe but also invites growth, because it's easy to do the safe, where I'm not going to say the thing or speak to the thing or have you even address the thing because I can't go there. I can't do the growth piece if it doesn't feel safe. And now it's like, here's the safe and here's the growth, and I got you, babe. I got you wherever we're going. And that's really important for me to be able to do that, because it is like your purpose is, it's so vulnerable, like you said, and so intimate to who you are, right? And if you don't feel safe in that space, we're not going to get the activation that you desire, that you're coming for.
Mm, I think that was perfectly said because a lot of people need space and they don't get it where they're at. Or they
Yeah.
just unload and nothing is, and then they get upset when they're not listening. Well, I'm like, kind of gotta let them know before you
Yeah.
unload, you know? But yeah.
Yeah.
Is there any one last message you would like to give your audience about purpose?
Yeah. I would say this. I would say where you are is exactly where you need to be. You're not doing it wrong. You can't do it wrong because you are your purpose. Take the
Ooh,
pressure off.
mm, perfectly said.
Oh, thanks. From my
Yes.
heart to theirs. It's from my heart to theirs, 100%,
Mm,
because if they're struggling with purpose, I was there, and the, it was oh, so heavy and
mm.
exhausting.
All done in love. I think that's the major
Yeah.
aspect. All
Yeah.
right. Well, without further ado, I'm Emily Ruth. This is your podcast for Awaken Alive, and this was Jennifer Beverage. And I hope y'all have a wonderful day.
Bye.
Bye. Now, how do I stop recording this? Oh.